In early 1872, a young executive eliminated 22 competing businesses in 6 short weeks. He didn't buy them out at a premium or beat them with a better product. Instead, he deployed an invisible, mathematical trap to force their total surrender. This rapid conquest established the core mechanics of the modern corporate monopoly. The setting for this campaign was Cleveland, Ohio. By 1870, it had become a refining powerhouse. Crude oil flowed in from western Pennsylvania, and thanks to cheap transport on the Erie Canal and a fierce three-way price war between major railroads, Cleveland refiners could ship their kerosene to European markets cheaper than their East Coast rivals. But low shipping costs meant a low barrier to entry. Soon, anyone with a bit of capital was opening their own refining operation. As the market was overrun with new producers, refining capacity outweighed consumer demand by a factor of 3 to 1. The retail price of kerosene plummeted by more than half, locking the entire industry into a cycle of ruinous competition. Operating in the middle of this chaos was the Standard Oil Company, led by John D Rockefeller. Backed by massive cash reserves, Rockefeller despised the unpredictability of the open market. He viewed the refining surplus not as a natural phase of growth, but as a flaw that needed to be corrected through total control. By 1871, 90% of the remaining Cleveland refineries were losing money. But Rockefeller realized he could not simply wait for a natural downturn to bankrupt his rivals. To achieve total stability, he needed to engineer a mechanism that would force them to hand over their businesses immediately. In the fall of 1871, Rockefeller and a select group of elite refiners entered into a secret alliance with the 3 major railroads. They called this new syndicate the South Improvement Company. The railroads were legally bound as common carriers to charge equal rates to all customers, but behind closed doors, they desperately wanted to end their own price wars with guaranteed, steady freight traffic. Standard Oil, with its miles of tank cars, could provide that volume. In exchange, the railroads secretly agreed to give Standard Oil steep shipping discounts, known as rebates. The deal also included a secondary mechanism called a drawback. The railroads agreed to inflate the public shipping rates for all independent competitors. Then, when a rival refiner paid that inflated fee, the railroads secretly funneled a percentage of that payment directly into Standard Oil's accounts. Rockefeller was literally being paid a cut of his competitors' struggle to survive. With every barrel of oil an independent rival shipped, their profit margins shrank toward zero, while Standard Oil's margins grew effortlessly. The independent refiners were unknowingly subsidizing the company trying to destroy them. The South Improvement Company functioned as an engineered economic trap. By turning every single shipment into a direct transfer of wealth to Rockefeller, it made independent refining mathematically unviable. Word of the secret agreement eventually leaked to the press, triggering mass panic among Cleveland's independent refiners. The region erupted into angry protests and organized boycotts. But for the local business owners, the existential threat felt imminent. Rockefeller used this terror to move on his rivals. He visited them one by one, presenting a stark choice. They could hand over their refineries in exchange for cash or Standard Oil stock at his appraised value, or they could try to compete against the new shipping rates and face bankruptcy. Facing financial ruin, the rivals caved. Between February and March of 1872, Rockefeller forced 22 of his 26 competitors to sell. On a map of the city, those refinery locations flipped to Standard Oil one by one in a span of just 6 weeks. Just as the buyouts concluded, the situation reversed. Massive public backlash and an independent boycott forced the Pennsylvania legislature to revoke the South Improvement Company's charter in April. The entire collusive agreement collapsed before a single transaction was ever made. Rockefeller had conquered the Cleveland oil market using a weapon he never actually fired. He secured his monopoly through the fear of a rigged game that never legally existed. The Cleveland Massacre gave Standard Oil control of 85% of the city's refining capacity. It demonstrated a strategy of horizontal integration, the systematic acquisition of competitors at a single stage of production. By repeating this process nationwide, Rockefeller controlled 90% of the entire United States oil market by 1879. But the aggressive tactics of the massacre created a lifelong enemy. During the Panic of 1872, a 14-year-old girl named Ida Tarbell watched her father's oil business, forcing him to mortgage the family home. Tarbell channeled that childhood trauma into a journalistic crusade. In 1902, she published a 19-part investigative series in McCore's magazine. Through meticulous research into corporate records, Tarbell exposed Standard Oil's history of secret rebates and illegal collusion to the American public. Her work forced the federal government to act. In 1911, the United States Supreme Court ruled that Standard Oil violated the Sherman Antitrust Act. The court ordered the empire to be dissolved into smaller, separate companies. The Cleveland Massacre established the strategy of the American corporate monopoly. Ultimately, the same aggressive tactics used to build the trust led to the creation of the antitrust laws that govern free markets today.